Call that a knife? This is a knife.
That's not a knife, that's a spoon.
All right, you win. I see you've played knifey spoony before.
We're happy little Vegemite, as bright can be. We all enjoy our Vegemite for breakfast, lunch, and tea. Our mommy say we're growing stronger every single week because we love our Vegemite. We all adore our Vegemite. It puts a rose in every cheek.
Vegemite, the delicious spread, provides the vitamin B1 your family needs daily. Be sure you put Vegemite next to the pepper and salt whenever you set the table.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online, on-demand, predominantly fastener-related podcast that covers the industrial fastener industry wall-to-wall. So if fasteners are your game, you've found the right podcast, and we're very glad you clicked in. Hi, everybody. Eric Dudas here. The co-host of Fully Threaded is with me as well. He's back from his walkabout with the wallabies down under. Of course, he's Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, doing all right?
Not a single wallaby did I see, but plenty of kangaroos, okay? Yeah, doing good. Though I have to say, it's much nicer to be in the middle of summer than it is in the middle of winter.
Yeah, well, in the southern hemisphere, that would be the case, and that's your kind of weather, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
We'll have to discuss the difference between a wallaby and a kangaroo later at some point. I guess I had those confused. I thought it was a slang term, but what do I know about all that?
Right.
I pretend to know a little bit about the fastener industry, right? Not kangaroos and other marsupial life.
Right, okay.
As we will attempt to demonstrate on this episode 124 of the podcast, which we're publishing on January 16th, 2018, a brand new podcast year for Fully Threaded Radio, Bri.
Yep, and let's all hope it's a great year for everyone in the industry, actually.
Signs are good so far, and we'll hear about some of those during the segments today. The feature segment on today's broadcast is a pretty wide-ranging conversation that focused on the recent leadership conference put on by the Young Fastener Professionals and the NFDA. We talked with Mike Ricciardi of ITW Shakeproof and Bryan Wheeler of Star Stainless. Both of them attended, and they got into some very interesting conversations about some high-tech issues and how those are going to be possibly affecting the fastener industry. Kind of an unusual segment, but you're not going to want to miss it, everybody.
No, I think both of them sort of came away with the view that this is sort of interesting stuff as opposed to just techo stuff.
Yes, it was eye-opening, and hopefully this segment will be for some of you too. Fastener Industry Professional of the Year 2017, Robbie Gilchrist, joins us for a segment. We'll open the podcast with that one after a couple of messages. He's got a list of things to watch for in the industry during the coming year. Plus, we'll speak with Jessica Boweak of Mack Brooks. She's the expo manager of the upcoming Fastener Fair USA, which is happening in April in Cleveland.
Right.
Baird analyst Quinn Fredrickson joins Fastener Technology International editor Mike McNulty as they cover how the FDI closed out 2017 and what the industry is expecting as 2018 unfolds. Plus, Carmen Vertullo's back with his second installment on torque wrenches on the Fastener Training Minute. It's all coming your way, folks, straight ahead, right after Brian shares with you our list of fine sponsors for Fully Threaded Radio.
Right. I can't wait to do that, okay? We have great sponsors. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stellfast and the Lindstrom family of companies, including Titan Fasters. Stellfast, for service you deserve and people you trust. And the Lindstrom family of companies, Lindstrom, by any measure. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, InSequel Software, The Worth Group, ND Industries, Mack Brooks, Fastener Fair USA, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So we look forward to another great year with our sponsors in 2018, and I hope that you all are treated well by the business climate, okay? We hope everyone is, but our sponsors in particular.
Yeah, we don't need any climate change there.
Right, that's true.
Get with us anytime, folks. We'd love to hear your comments, suggestions, and so forth. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com, or we hang out on Twitter occasionally where the handle is Fully Threaded. Now, speaking of Twitter, Bri, over the Christmas holidays, while you were down there with the wallabies or whatever they were, I shot out a picture on Twitter. I guess it was a kangaroo, actually, or a couple of them, and folks had some interesting reactions to that photo. So you were down outside. Actually, you were all over Australia. I guess you were hopping around. But
yeah, I took a picture of a couple of kangaroos that was over in Western Australia. We went to one of the national parks over there, and there just happened to be a couple of them. Actually, were about 4 or 5 kangaroos, just probably from 15 feet away from us. Okay, we were actually looking for koala bears. We found some of those too.
Those are really cool. Hanging out in a eucalyptus tree somewhere.
Yeah, well, it was morning time. They were still asleep, so it wouldn't have been a very interesting photo. That was just a blob in the tree.
Okay, so enough about the wildlife. What I want to know is, what the hell is Vegemite anyway? Some people were asking on Twitter about Vegemite, and why don't you enlighten us?
Well, there's a bit of a conflict here because New Zealanders think that they invented Vegemite and Australians think that they invented Vegemite, and it comes from a thing that the British made called Marmite. So it's basically yeast that has sort of matured, would be a nice way of saying it, aged another way, and I think it's like the byproduct of making beer. It's all of the stuff that mash that comes into making beer, and they just let it sit and age and something, and it goes black. And that is what Vegemite is. So it's a spread that people use to put on toast mainly, but can be bread.
So it's a waste product to eat for breakfast.
It's a waste product that tastes really, really good. And if you grow up in New Zealand and Australia, you love it. Anyone else in the world generally hates it because it's so salty. And they get sick of listening to New Zealanders and Australians to convince them or try to convince them how healthy it is. Yeah,
you've been raving about it for years, and you can't get any of us to I've tried it, but I just can't do it.
I love it, okay?
It's obvious that you do. Well, there you go, folks. A little bit of added knowledge that you can take away from the podcast. As we say, it's predominantly fastener-related, not 100%.
Right.
And why don't we get on with some of the fastener-related stuff,
yeah,
which I'm sure most of the audience is clamoring for right now. And we'll do so right after this. It's Fully Threaded, folks. Thanks for joining us.
These guys aren't screwing around much. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio, Internet Talk Radio for the fastener industry.
What makes Lindstrom a leading specialty fastener master distributor? For years, you've known Lindstrom as the premier name in metric fasteners, with an expanded product line that now includes the largest assortment of fasteners and components of any master distributor. Today, Lindstrom means much more than metric. At Lindstrom, we're focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice, delivered by the most experienced sales team in the industry. For inch or metric fasteners, standard or special, in any finish, all packed to your requirements, turn to Lindstrom, where we have what you need and deliver it the way you want. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Meet over 2,000 fastener professionals from key manufacturing industries when you attend Fastener Fair USA, North America's only show for the entire fastener supply chain, taking place April 11th and 12th, 2018 in Cleveland, Ohio. Fastener Fair USA attracts manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and end users from North America's fastest growing industries, such as automotive, aerospace, construction, equipment manufacturers, and many more. More than 200 companies from around the world will exhibit at Fastener Fair USA 2018, showcasing the latest in industrial and construction fasteners, assembly and installation systems, manufacturing technology, and much more. Take advantage of the opportunity to grow your business with our high-level education and training taught by industry experts, including the Fastener Training Institute, who will be participating in the inaugural show, offering product and technical training. Connect with customers and peers on the show floor and after hours at our welcome reception on April 11th at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is truly something for everyone who's part of the fastener supply chain at Fastener Fair USA. To request information on exhibiting or visiting Fastener Fair USA, go to fastenerfair.com/USA or call show management at 866-899-4728. We'll see you at Fastener Fair USA 2018 in the heart of America's manufacturing region, April 11th and 12th at Huntington Convention Center, Cleveland, Ohio.
This is Andy Cohn from Duncan Bolt in Santa Fe Springs, California, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
So, Bri, just one other question for you on the whole Australia thing. Do people actually really say, I'll put a shrimp on the Barbie for you? Or was that just kind of an 80s thing?
No. The Australians still stick an IE on the end of almost anything. I don't offhand. I spent like an hour going through all these shortened forms of things that they talk about. Barbie is one. A tinny. Now I would say tinny. The Australians would say tinny. That's a can of beer, and anything you can stick an IE on the end of, that's what they would do.
So when you were down there, did you actually stick a shrimp on the Barbie?
Yeah, I think we did actually.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go, folks. We're going to close out the Australia coverage on this episode with that knowledge. And, you obviously had to plan quite a bit because you traveled all over the place while you were down there, as you usually do. You make the most out of your trips down there. But you've been planning another trip, and that's coming up pretty soon because you're going to Costa Rica to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the NFDA, the National Fastener Distributor Association. You are a globe-trotting fastener dude, Bri.
Well, I sort of I've done a lot of traveling in South America, particularly. I never ever have been to Central America, and I decided that with the schedule of events, NFDA puts on a pretty good show anyway, I have to say. I thought, well, this is sort of a really good idea. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are friends of FCH are going there, and it sort of looks like it's going to be a really interesting show. So if you're in the NFDA and you haven't yet sort of quite worked out whether it's worth going, I'd tell you, I think it's worth going, okay?
I think you're right, Bri. Once again, the NFDA is turning 50 in 2018. That's hard to believe in and of itself. To celebrate on March 14th through the 16th, they're heading down to the JW Marriott.
Guanacaste. It's a beach resort. It's up in the northern part of Costa Rica. And, you fly, there's about 3 airports in Costa Rica. You fly into the northern one, and then you have to organize transport, but they have these little bus things that take you from the airport to the hotel. And, once you're there, you're pretty much centered. Okay.
As we're recording this, it looks like a very, very nice list of attendees already. Plus, they've got a snorkeling event and a golf event. People are starting to sign up for that as well. All the information for this, by the way, as you might have imagined, everybody, is available on the NFDA website. That's nfda-fastener.org.
I'd also suggest to you that you need to, if you're even thinking, you probably should get some of your arrangements sorted out, because the flights in and out of this airport, the airport's in a place called Liberia, and they're sort of getting a bit full up, and some of them aren't, the ones that are left are not at great times. So, don't sort of leave it too long, okay?
More helpful travel advice from Brian Musker.
Yeah, and you know what I'm not doing this time? I'm not going down to interview anyone in any hotels, okay?
Yeah, that was hilarious when you did that for Vegas. But, boy, you helped a lot of people out, I tell you. We had several people come up and thank us for your guidance. Well, once again, the NFDA 50th Anniversary Conference is happening March 14th through the 16th down in Costa Rica. Brian drew the long straw, so have some fun, Bri.
I will, don't worry.
I don't think they have Vegemite there, so you'll have to bring your own.
Look, any New Zealander or Australian travels with a tube of Vegemite, actually. It's the funniest thing to see people in hotels, and if you can tell if they're Australians, because they sneak out a little, like a toothpaste tube of Vegemite, which they carry with them. We'll stop on Australia. This is no more Australian stuff, okay?
Well, I'm sure you'll have some fun, and for any FTR listeners who go down there, I'm sure they'll have fun too.
We will, actually.
Got an email here from Chris Donnell of Scanwell Logistics. He shot out the monthly newsletter. Some of you may get this. Headline that stood out to me, I figured we'd include it in some of the notes here before we get to our conversation with Robbie Gilchrist. He says, rates are on the rise yet again. Ocean carriers have imposed their second round of GRI rate recovery fees in the amount of $450 per 40-foot container, and that's set to take effect on January 15th. This goes along with their January 1st increase of $800. So importers are being faced with rates at the start of 2018 that are almost 30% higher than they were in December.
Wow, that's sort of a lot.
It is. That's why I thought it was kind of worthy of including here at the top of the podcast. I didn't get a wind of that till I received this email, so I guess in all the holiday revelry and euphoria over the tax breaks and stuff, we got to shed a little bit of bad news on things.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, do that.
A lot of people use Scanwell, and Chris does a nice job of keeping everyone abreast of what's happening out there.
Yeah, it's a while since we had him on the show, actually, like a fair while.
That's because he doesn't call me back.
Oh, okay. Okay. Say it again. Why haven't we had him on the show recently? Because he doesn't call you back. Right.
I don't know where you're going with that, Bri.
Well, he had a really interesting, when we interviewed him, he had a really interesting take on, the differences in, bringing, I guess, goods, but fasteners in particular, into different ports on the West Coast versus trying to get them into the East Coast. It's just I thought it was interesting.
Well, that's true, but interesting people can blow us off just as well as boring people. I don't understand the connection.
Righto. I'll stop there. Righto.
I'm just glad I'm still on the newsletter list, that's all.
Right. When you fall off that, then you'll know you're in deep trouble.
Well, fortunately, there's another list we're included on, and that is the distribution list for Link Magazine. And I got my copy. I'm looking at the winter edition, and if you flip over to page 32, there's a story by the headline of "Do You Scroogle?" Do you scroogle, Bri?
I think I do. I think I may have been doing that for some time, actually.
Yes. It's probably worthy of its own segment, and I think we'll be getting to that in the near future on the podcast. Not today, though, but we will touch on this story. Do You Scroogle really is about the FCH sourcing network, some of our recent endeavors, some of the updates that we've made to the network. And if you don't know what we're talking about, get out to fastenersclearinghouse.com, everybody. It's a huge online resource full of fasteners that you can locate if you're ever in a pinch or you're looking for a hard-to-find or a fill-in item. Fastenersclearinghouse.com. It's the FCH sourcing network, over 1.5 million line items, and it's free to use when you're trying to source something. On the other side of that coin, we'd be thrilled to have you using the network to list your inventory. We'll make your phone ring. I don't know if Chris Donnell will call you, but fastener distributors will.
Right. And that's an S, okay? Remember, there's a great big difference between fastenersclearinghouse.com and fastenerclearinghouse.com. Unfortunately.
Yes, and the S is for Scroogle.
Right.
Well, we had a chance to talk with another guy who gets around quite a bit. That's Robbie Gilchrist. He sat down with us. Actually, he was down in Naples, Florida for this segment. Let's play that now. What do you think?
Yeah, we should.
Well, Bri, it's the start of a new podcast season full of exciting guest segments, and we begin those now with one of our favorite perennial industry commentators and conversationalists. He's winner of the 2017 Fastener Professional of the Year Award, currently with Capital Marketing, and coming to us from beautiful Naples, Florida, he's Robbie Gilchrist. Hey, Robbie, thanks for joining us.
Hello, folks. Hope y'all are doing well. Happy New Year to you too, and Happy New Year to the rest of the industry.
Thank you. Likewise. So have you managed to rebuild everything after the hurricane down there?
Yeah, you guys got hit hard.
Yeah, in our neighborhood, the structure pretty much fared well, but the foliage, the trees and the light poles and stuff like that, I mean, they're just mangled. It's just amazing what Mother Nature can do to certain things, but we've come along outside of our neighborhood, particularly some of the older neighborhoods that go back more than 20, 25 years. Quite a few of those structures were banged up, real bad. And unfortunately, there's not enough, labor down here to do, a quick repair, on a lot of these properties. So I was talking to a guy, matter of fact, this morning, and he was telling me that FEMA has done a wonderful job down here, particularly up a little further north, which is where some of the older neighborhoods are. And they've moved into trailers, and quite a few people are living in those FEMA, trailers. But FEMA came along and responded very, very rapidly to anybody that needed assistance right after the storm was over with.
Okay.
Well, the hurricane season of 2017 was definitely one of the big headlines of the year. And now that we've had a few months to absorb what exactly happened and see, and of course your fastener operations are primarily based in the southeast of the country, or at least you have a big presence there. What can you tell us? I mean, what are your reactions from the aftermath in terms of the industry?
Well, a lot of the industry was shut down for 5 to 8 days, depending on where it was at, particularly in Florida, obviously. Most of those guys came back, pretty good. Some of them had some generators where they were able to at least power up to a certain degree. The issue, again, they had was getting their people, back to work to do, the job that they needed to do, because they were more concerned about taking care of their families and their own properties. That was an interesting conversation I had with several people. As far as the Carolinas go, we had more rain and water from those storms than anything else. And several parts of the Carolinas, Charleston, South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, those were flooded because of the storm surge, that came through.
Yep.
But again, people have fared very, very well, and people, jumped in and took care of things and got things squared away the best they could. And then, of course, time heals all wounds anyway. But it's coming around pretty good. The business climate has certainly been able to hold together. And fortunately, unfortunately, the storm, is going to help the business climate in certain areas, to a degree, as well.
Well, at least it kept the golf courses green, right?
Well, I tell you what, grass will grow anywhere, it seems like.
Right.
But let me just say this. I had never, ever thought about this, and no reason to think about it. I've only been through one hurricane in my life. But the debris that this storm blew in from all over the place, that attached itself to the houses, to the trees, dust, sand, it's just amazing the cleanup that went through it. And, even certain parts of the houses and the streets, mold is growing on. They had never had mold grow on them before. So whatever tropical, moisture was blown all the way across the properties, it contributed to this change in structural or visual, climate change, if you will. So that was a real startle, educational thing, maybe is a better word, was, that part of the hurricane as well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you imagine, you can recognize a couple of trees blowing down, but you don't imagine all the shit flying up into your backyard from everywhere.
That's right. Exactly right.
I think you invented a new word there, too, which I like, vegetational. I like that.
Well, we'll Google that one and see if it comes up.
So, as I said, that was one of the huge headlines of 2017. In terms of the fastener industry, looking over your shoulder, what do you think? What was the biggest headline in the industry, at least in your world?
Well, obviously, as you stated a little bit earlier, a tremendous accomplishment or gratification to me was the industry, the NDA, presenting me with the Fastener Professional of the Year award. I was just really stepped back on that whenever it happened, and really pleased, whenever your peers, award you with, something like that. And it was a great honor, and I was glad to participate with them. And hopefully I'll be a good ambassador for them, going forward with that program. And, I think business as a general whole in 17 certainly had accomplishments that we had not seen in past years. Some of the customers that I deal with had record years. They hadn't had a record year, and I guess that's the big recessional time, in 10, 11, 12 area kind of thing. So people were really pleased with the outcome of that, and a number of people hired people. And as you saw from several of the other publications, the bigger guys are building buildings, the smaller guys are, building buildings, hiring people again, as I said. So I think those are, good accomplishments for the year. Whenever the new administration came in, I think it just gave everybody a big boost, pride boost for the thing, that they were just able to step up and move along and be progressive with it.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of, it's hard, between all the crap coming out of Washington, it's hard to sort of sit down and realize that some things have been achieved, okay?
That's right.
Some of them a bit of a cost, and we will, we'll remain to see how big that impact is. But, from discussions, my sister is a tax attorney in Australia, and she was saying that just from outside of America, the view that America could change its tax policy is amazingly important. It affects the whole world.
That's an interesting statement. Profit is not a bad word in real life. Politicians want to make you understand that profit's a bad word. But without profit, nobody succeeds and nobody builds anything.
Oh, you have not been learning your lessons correctly. Okay, go back to the brainwashing school.
You think I'm listening to the wrong people, huh?
God, where did you hear that rubbish?
I'm a huge fan of profit myself.
Yeah, I just wish I could make some occasionally.
Brian, I guess I'm from the real old school then. How's that?
Right, this is the school that uses the phrase you used before, though I'd never heard, a hog wallow. Was that what? That was a dumpy hotel, is it?
That's exactly right.
I've never heard that in my life before.
You never heard that phrase before, huh?
Right.
He's full of them, Bri. You got to get down to the next NFPA meeting.
I spent years in Texas. I never heard anything like that. Where does this come from?
Well, I'm proud to say I'm just a good old Southern redneck boy. That's all I can tell you.
Well, I met a few of those. They just were Texans.
Oh no, those are not true Southerners. Those are Texans. There's a little difference in Carolina and Georgia than the other. Yeah, I got to tell you this story. It's the funniest thing. One of the funniest things that happened to me, because we mentioned Georgia, you mentioned the South. My niece got married back first December. We were invited to the wedding, so obviously we went. Her fiance husband's cousin married him. He's an ordained Presbyterian minister. a young fella just like they were. They were mid to late 20s. So this young man, probably one of the most laid-back weddings I've ever been to in my life. And they were cutting some little jokes and stuff. And one of the things that the preacher said, talking about, and the groom's name was Colin. Hey, Colin, you and I have been very close all through the years, almost like brothers, if not closer than brothers in some cases. But as a cousin, I never realized, even though we were from Georgia, that I would ever be marrying my cousin. And the church just erupted in laughter from that one. That was so funny. I mean, he almost got an ovation from that one from the people in the church.
Yeah, it's like all those good old boy stories. They always have to have a reference to a cousin's, brother's, uncle's, great-grandmother's niece, or something like that. Those weird relationships.
It was great. It was great. Sure was. So you'll get all kinds of phrases, Brian. Okay, that's the bottom line here.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Clearly, there's a big part of my education missing. I've got to fix this up quickly. Okay.
Well, Robbie, you're wily like a fox that way, and so given that, I'm sure you've got some prognostications for the coming year. Then, given everything that we've discussed and everything that you see a lot of things, you talk to a lot of people. What do you think the fastener industry should be watching as we go forward here?
Probably the one thing that's not stable, and I don't know whether it ever has been or ever will be, but it seems to be, showing up more, particularly the last few months, and I think we're going to certainly see more of it going forward, is the instability in the pricing come out of Asia, and even some of the availability of some of the product, and particularly some of the coatings and platings that are coming out of Asia now. They've tried to step up on some of the regulations, I've been told, and so there's going to be some more shortages and more price increases, if not both, coming out of there. I think those are things that people have got to be made aware of. And in some cases, maybe most cases, the end users, because the distributors are going to have to pass along some of these price increases, and the world's going to have to, accept them. The profitability we mentioned earlier and the support is not going to be there that some of these people require, request, and demand. So I'm a little interested to see how that's going to transcend itself this year, or if it's just going to continue to, massicize. The business as a whole appears to be quite a bit of a migrating into the South. Volvo's opening up a new car plant just north of Charleston, South Carolina. Boeing added on to that plant in Charleston, South Carolina. A couple other industries have moved into Alabama. There's a possibility that Toyota and one of the other car people are going to have some kind of joint venture that may end up in North Carolina or possibly over in, I think they said, Mississippi. So, there's industry coming, and I certainly believe that this tax reform is going to bring more interest and more support, back to the economy. The other concern that we all have to face is finding people who want to work or finding labor. There's so many people out there that don't want to, get their hands dirty, so to speak, as I mentioned earlier about finding qualified people, to clean up the hurricane mess. But it's that way pretty much all over. And most every distributor that I come in contact with, and quite a few of the end users are always asking if they know of some good help. Good help. Well, the good help's got jobs, and they're going to keep those jobs. But the young kids coming up have got to realize that it's okay to get your hands dirty, and every job is not based in front of a keyboard. And I think whenever the world figures some of that stuff out, then we're going to be able to continue to grow this great country the way that it needs to be, and has been, and will be, going forward in some capacity or another.
Well, I think you'll find a lot of agreement with that, and that's something that's carrying over from last year and probably the year before. We don't really see an end in sight to that one, but it's definitely a reoccurring thought. And, of course, you're a big advocate for the upcoming generation, and that's in a lot of ways, but predominantly through your scholarship foundation. Before we close it up here during this conversation, you want to give us a little bit of update on what's happening with your Gilchrist Foundation and your scholarship activities and how folks can get a hold of you to participate in that should they have a candidate?
Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking about that. Yeah, we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 18 years with that program. We have just been excited the last 6 to 12 months because the foundation's finally made some money. The endowment in the portfolio, is up, like 20% this year. And we've just struggled along for all the other years in this, what I call the decade of no returns, to meet the demands that we had. But during the decade of no returns, we were still able to fund it. The endowment, went down some, and hopefully now it'll get back up to where it needs to be stronger again, so we've got more funds to disperse. But we awarded 5 scholarships, I think it was last year, maybe 4 for sure. Great kids. We talked to several of them. All of them were very, very anxious to get out into the real world and get their education further along. And we are now accepting applications, which we will do so till May 31st. You can go to the website, www.gilchristfoundation.com, and that's GILCHRIST foundation.com. You can download the application from there, follow the instructions, send it in. The scholarships are available to anybody working in the industry and anybody's children whose parents work in the industry. So if you're going to school part-time, you're eligible. You're also eligible for a repeat. We'll give you a scholarship or we'll award a scholarship to somebody more than once. So if you've received one in the past, don't hesitate to send in another application for the upcoming, year as well. And again, thank you for bringing that up.
It's our pleasure. How many years have you been running this with your along with your beautiful wife Gina, I should add?
Absolutely. I believe this was our 18th year.
Wow.
I think the first scholarship went out in 2000, and we've awarded I think it's 58 scholarships over that period of time.
That's great going. Okay,
Yeah,
great achievement.
Tickled to death.
Yeah,
we're able to do it.
100%. Well, it's a great service to the industry, and now that we're hopefully emerging from the decade of no returns, as you termed it, we're going to see a few more years like this. Well,
There you go.
Robbie Gilchrist, Capital Marketing, fantastic way to kick off the podcast season with you on board, and we wish you the best. I'm sure we'll catch up with you during the year at a variety of different fastener industry events, but thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you guys on the internet and live, and Happy New Year to you, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Yeah, I've got to think. I'll brush up on my my vocab, okay? The Georgia vocab.
There you go.
Hey, everybody, it's Fully Threaded Radio. We'll be right back.
Bryan and Eric, your online Fastener Talk Radio brothers in thread. Fully Threaded Radio.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Unlike other software companies, with InSequel, you purchase your software once. There will never be a paid upgrade. If you need assistance with anything, InSequel is there to help. When you call, you will always speak with a real person offering you quick and knowledgeable answers to your questions. Can your current provider say this? Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. So why settle? Call InSequel Software at 877-446-9775 or visit www.inxsql.com.
Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been servicing the fastener community since 1905. An employee-owned company for 33 years, we take great pride in the quality of products we sell, offering outstanding customer service from our very knowledgeable sales team members. Our standard product lines include braided weld screws, resistance weld fasteners, leg levelers, tube inserts, clevis pins, and various other fasteners. We have complete custom manufacturing capabilities in low carbon, medium carbon, and stainless steel materials, and our quality systems are registered to ISO standards. We also have an entire team of sourcing specialists able to locate those hard-to-find items with typically smaller minimums and shorter lead times than that of our competition. We offer same-day shipments from one of our warehouses, strategically located throughout the United States and Canada, enabling us to fulfill all your fastener needs in a very timely manner. To find out more about Buckeye Fasteners, please call us at 800-437-1689 or visit us on the web at buckeyefasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, product support from development to implementation.
ND Industries has been solving customers' toughest problems through innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service since 1955. A family-owned business, ND Industries manufactures and applies fastener locking, bonding, sealing, masking, and assembling products. Their pre-application process makes fasteners ready to use at the point of assembly, resulting in reduced labor costs, time savings, and superior quality assurance. As a fully integrated company, ND handles all aspects of operations, from formulating custom chemical compounds and coating fasteners to providing inline inspection, packaging, and delivery services. ND Industries serves the global market with 13 divisions in the continental U.S. and also facilities in Taiwan, China, and Turkey. Learn more about ND Industries at our website at www.ndindustries.com. ND Industries, innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service. Contact ND today.
My customer sent me a print for a bolt specifically for the machine in his shop, but we can't make it.
Solution man, Ken. Provide me with the print, and my superhuman CNC machining team will custom make it for you faster than a manufacturer's rep drinking at an open bar. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Wow, that is fast.
So are you at the distributive social, huh?
This is John Gaudette with Metric and Multi-Threaded Components, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Bryan and Eric back with you, doing the job most fastener people won't do. Fully Threaded
Radio.
The one and only. Well, this is the part of the podcast where we will be having the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty that's coming up in mere moments. After that, stay tuned, everyone, because we have the Fastener Training Minute with a guy who is known to bring a torque wrench to a knife fight every time, so watch out for him.
Yeah.
Carmen Vertullo will be joining us. Well, we were pointing out in the previous segment, Bri, that in the most recent Link magazine, on page 32, there's a story about our new preferred search result placement program on the FCH sourcing network, and we're already getting a little activity out of that. That's because Link magazine is yet another fantastic source of fastener industry news.
Right. Yeah, we've been using Link magazine and reading it for years, actually since we started the company. A long time now.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that first early article. That's probably, we should do a segment about that sometime. That was kind of funny. There's kind of a backstory to that whole thing.
Yeah, straight out of Atlas Shrugged.
As so many good stories are. But I don't know if you saw it yet, Bri. Just hit my doorstep. The cover story of the winter issue of Link magazine features something kind of new in the fastener industry. A lot of people are still getting wind of this. That's Fastener Fair USA, which is a big news show being sponsored by Mack Brooks, and it's happening in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Huntington Convention Center, April 11th through the 12th. We'll be there, Bri.
Absolutely, yes.
Hopefully a lot of you folks will be there too, and we'll have some fun. Now, the headline on the cover here says, "The industry comes together in America's manufacturing heartland." And for more on that, we're going to talk to Jessica Boweak, and she is the exhibition manager for Mack Brooks. Hey, Jessica, you out there?
I am. Thanks for having me, Eric and Bryan.
It's a pleasure.
Indeed it is. Now, we've talked with your compatriot, Melissa Magistro, America's Fastener sweetheart, as she likes to be known in the past. And
she loves that.
Yeah. Thought we'd give you a chance to say hello.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is a little bit of a different fastener show than what has previously been offered in the U.S., isn't it? And Fastener Fair USA, coming up again in April, is making its maiden voyage. What can you tell us about the show?
Yeah, so the Fastener Fair brand that we're bringing to North America is a little different. It's open to the entire fastener and fixing supply chain. And we attract manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and end users. In the, such as in the industry of automotive, aerospace, construction, industrial OEM, and many others.
Okay. So this is a little bit of a change, isn't it? Because there's people have got comfortable with the way the Las Vegas show sort of works, but this one includes actually end users, doesn't it?
That's correct. And, with being located in Cleveland, it really makes sense because we're really close to, the manufacturing regions and attracting, attendees also from the Midwest that are in Michigan and the surrounding area.
And Chicago. Sorry, you forgot that.
And Chicago, of course. And Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, there's no question the Midwest is a hotbed of fastener activity. We've talked about it before on the podcast, and of course the industry is really chattering about it a lot. We're all waiting to see what the overall acceptance is or the reaction will be. I think you'll have definitely a different kind of a mix at this show than at any other show that's been out there, but nevertheless, the show will go on. Now, there's been some talk out on Twitter lately from some of the folks outside of Cleveland. I know a lot of the Twitterati, at least the Fastener Twitterati, are definitely heading to Cleveland, and they were wondering about, among other things, hotels. So what's the hotel situation look like, and what are some of the events that are associated with the show?
Yeah, so we are having at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame our networking event, so we're really excited about that on opening night. And the hotel and our registration's open, and with that entire week where the Fastener Fair is going on, it's also the Hall of Fame induction that week. So we really want to urge everybody to make sure book your hotel early enough, and so you can get the great group rates, and you can go to our website and you can link into the registration and hotels in advance to make sure you get a room.
Wow, you're right. And you do need to think a little bit about setting things up early.
And you never know, you might spot someone, an inductee or something. That might be cool, too.
Yeah. You might be sitting at some kind of like an off-strip bar and run into Joan Jett or something. Who knows?
Who knows? That could be exciting.
All of the details for Fastener Fair USA, folks, are available, as you would imagine, online. The website there, www.fastenerfair.com. Of course, the homepage of the Mack Brooks site shows links to all of your many shows. We've also supported the Mexico show that you folks run, which is another kind of a fledgling success. I know we'll be talking about that again when the time comes, but for right now, what are we looking at in terms of volume for the show? Or how can you characterize what's going on right now? I know there's a lot of excitement generated, but just for folks who are just hearing about it, what should they expect?
Yeah, and we have one exciting. We expected our goal was to have about 200 companies, and currently we're at over 200 companies from around the world that will exhibit. So that's been really exciting. Along with we put together a educational program, and we're highlighting, Fastener Training Institute will also be participating in offering sessions the day before on some technical training on April 10th. So we're really excited.
Okay.
We opened the registration right before Christmas. And we've already have, quite a few folks already registering. So we were really excited about that when we looked at the numbers coming back from the holiday.
Well, because my indication is that the fastener industry hasn't even started working properly yet, okay? So if you're having any registrations, it's pretty good.
I know. That's what we were excited about. We were like, wow, they're eating eggnog and registering for the Fastener Fair. That's exciting.
That's good.
Well, the good news is you certainly don't have to be drinking eggnog to sign up for Fastener Fair USA, and I'm sure a lot of people are getting back in the saddle after the holidays, and January is certainly a time when a lot of companies look down the calendar and say what they'll be attending, and I think a lot of them are just hearing about Fastener Fair, and they're making the decision to get out there, especially companies located in the Midwest, although by no means restricted to that category.
Oh, absolutely not.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you out there, Jessica, because, of course, FCH will be exhibiting.
I know. We're excited to have you guys.
Yep, it'll be fun.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland's a great place for one of these venues. We have fun in Cleveland always, okay?
Yeah, Cleveland's a really nice place, convenient, for the hotels and great restaurants as well.
Yeah, Eric's been introducing me to some of the restaurants, okay? Or Eric and Jackie, should I say.
Yeah, there's some really nice restaurants.
There's a lot of them. And once again, folks, there's quite a bit of chatter out there on Twitter regarding the show, and I know somebody from your team is always monitoring that, Jessica. So, again, everybody, that's April 11th through the 12th, Cleveland, Ohio, at the Huntington Convention Center, which is a first-class venue, I'll add.
It is. It's a really nice venue. And Cleveland's really excited to host Fastener Fair. They've been really great partners with us.
That's good.
The Fastener News Report is coming up straight away, everybody. That's brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics and Fastenal. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast and Lindstrom. We have a tradition here on the podcast, Jessica, that when we have a guest on this part of the show where we're leading into Mike's segment, that we ask them if they want to tee off and introduce the Fastener News. You want to take us up on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Go for it.
And now, news about screws you can use. Here is Mike McNulty.
Oh, very good. That's cool.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored today by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. 2018 is the year that will deliver lower federal taxes to American businesses, individuals, and families, as well as another #1 draft pick to the Cleveland Browns football team, and possibly an even higher level of elitism and lecturing from our favorite champions of government domination. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver the first Fastener News Report of 2018. In this episode, we're going to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on the MWFA and newsmaker headlines from Brighton Best, The Worth Group, Microplastics, Pivot Point, Ernest Machine, Solon Manufacturing, McLean Fogg, and Sherrick Fastening Solutions. On the back page report, we're going to talk about job numbers. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
Volt Industrial Plastics is the source for all your high-quality plastic fastener needs, and customer service is their #1 priority. With almost 1 million fasteners in stock and same-day shipping on stock items, Volt Industrial Plastics carries inventory so you don't have to. Volt manufactures everything in-house from over 125 different materials, and they're proud to say 100% of their products are American-made. And of course, custom tooling and in-house bagging is available. Contact Volt online at www.voltplastics.com. Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
I don't have time to look for the best price for a socket head cap screw zinc plated with a patch.
Solution Man can. Let me handle all of your secondary processes, and I'll even ship the finished product. One price, one purchase order, one invoice, and one shipment equals one solution. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Solution Man, you're my primary source for secondary processes.
Good one.
Back to the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty.
In December, the FDI ended a very solid year by coming in at 57.6 after hitting 56.9 the previous month. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network, the National Fastener Distributor Association, and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to Quinn Fredrickson of Baird. Hi, Quinn. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So what can you tell us about the FDI in December?
Yeah, so, as you said, the number was 57.6, which was up slightly sequentially versus November, which was, at 56.9. And obviously still, well above 50, so signaling continued expansion. And obviously encouragingly as well, we did reverse the kind of modest month-over-month deceleration we saw in November, although, as we noted in the report last time, that was obviously still, a very expansionary reading at 56.9. And I think, when we look at the year overall now, obviously we just completed a year in which we saw, basically above 50 FDIs in every single month except for January. So obviously pretty strong and really consistent with, what we saw in some of the indices that we track, obviously the ISM, which was also above 50 in every month of 2017, and in the public realm for distributors like Fastenal, which have seen, double-digit organic daily sales growth really from April on through the rest of the year. So certainly a pretty favorable backdrop here for fasteners this year, and definitely a lot more improved versus kind of the choppy pattern we saw in 2016.
Yeah, 2017, I would say, is probably obviously the best FDI year since we've been doing it. And you mentioned everything except January is above 50, and there's multiple months that were over 60. So pretty solid year, even though things did kind of sales-wise, I think they flattened out a little bit in December, but was that expected?
Yeah, I'd say that, even going back to, I think it was in October or maybe it was November, that somebody made a comment about, that things could maybe flatten out a little bit in December just with, the holidays, people taking time off work, facilities being shut down, things like that, which I don't think is necessarily, not something that people were expecting. And I certainly think that, relative to the kind of historical seasonal readings in the month of December, it was still, a pretty good month by December standards, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the forward-looking indicator bumped up in December versus November up to 59.6. Another a good trend that was carried out through 2017. Yeah,
and I think the main drivers in that this month were primarily people being even a little bit more optimistic on their 6-month outlook than people had been in kind of the past couple surveys, which is obviously encouraging, and even a slightly better sentiment regarding hiring out there, which, both of those things are obviously components of the forward-looking indicator and seem to indicate that things are, on pretty good footing here and that people feel pretty good about things, going into 2018, I would say.
Yeah, you mentioned the 6-month outlook, and if we take the people who said higher and same, it's 97%, almost a clean sweep. So I think that's bodes pretty well for this year, for 2018.
Yep, definitely. It's obviously hard to beat 97%, so I think most people would take that.
Now, one thing I just noticed that we didn't have very many comments this time. In fact, there was of the people who fill out the surveys, there was only one comment, but it was pretty positive. I think they said the limited number of production hours in December made it an average month, but if the backlog is any indication for the future, January 2018 should join most of 2017 in breaking records. So do you think that's an isolated view, or do you think that's kind of what most people are expecting?
No, I'd say, it seems like that's, pretty consistent with what most people are expecting. I thought that, that really kind of encapsulated pretty well that, obviously with December and the holidays and things like that there just were a little bit more limited number of production hours. And so, but obviously backlog being strong is obviously a great indicator for things here in January 2018 and hopefully into the rest of the year as well. And that obviously matches up with, as we were saying, on the quantitative side that, I think, as we said, that 97% of people expect higher or the same activity levels over the next 6 months. And that includes, 60% of people specifically who are expecting higher. So I think, that that's pretty consistent with what everybody's kind of looking for, and pretty representative, I would say.
Good. Now, while we close this out, maybe I know you guys talked to a lot of companies, private companies, as well as tracking people like Fastenal. What are you hearing from some of your contacts?
Yeah, on the public company side, so the last data point that we have for Fastenal was their November daily sales growth, which was up 15.4% year over year, and that was even above what we were kind of looking for, which was 14.4%. And on the Fastener side, they saw 14.1% overall for the Fastener growth, and that was including 10% organically. So obviously pretty good month for them, and we continue to see Fastenal their daily sales being in the double digits, even through 2018. That's really our expectation. And on the private company side, so we're in the midst of our survey process right now, and that'll be closing here pretty soon. But preliminarily, I think the results were really pretty positive. Certainly seemed like most people had pretty solid fourth quarters. Growth is tracking up about 4 to 5%. That's across all the different subsectors of distribution that we have represented in our survey, and that's I would say in line to slightly better versus what most people saw in 3Q, and pretty much across all the product groups that we really track. And I would say that the outlook here into the first quarter of the year and for 2018 overall is also pretty positive. I think for the year overall, at least preliminarily, people are kind of looking at 4% growth, which is tracking slightly higher versus what people had kind of initially thought about, and certainly seems to be a positive sign going into the year.
Yeah, that would definitely be a nice improvement over the last several years. So. Yeah,
I was just going to say, obviously, there's within that certain product groups that stand out in particular, and certainly on the industrial supply side, which we're including fasteners in that side. That's certainly one of the bright spots for both the current quarter trends and I think for the year overall.
Very good. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this year, and want to take this time to thank you again for you and everybody at Baird for doing the work you do on putting the FDI reports together, and we look forward to talking to you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
All right, you're welcome. That was Quinn Fredrickson of Baird. The FDI number for December was 57.6. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in this process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. The Midwest Fastener Association, also known as the MWFA, has announced its officers and board of directors for 2018. MWFA officers include President Wayne Wishnu of XL Screw, Vice President Mike Henry of MK8 Sales and Associates, Treasurer Paula Evitz of KDS Imports, and Secretary David Gaulick of All Tech Hardware and Autocraft USA. MWFA directors are Jeff Adams of Wing Hamlin, Glenn Bryn of Innovative Components, Matt DeLauder of SWD, George Hunt of Brighton Best International, and Bryan Wheeler of Star Stainless Screw. Alternates include Bob Baer of Abbott Interfast, Rich Cavoto of Metric and Multi-Standard Components, Bob O'Brien of Certified Fasteners and Industrial Supply, Becky Russo of Sems and Specials, and Brad Woolis of International Fasteners Incorporated. And in June of this year, the Midwest Fastener Association will be staging its 37th annual Fastener Show, which includes a tabletop expo, the Fastener Bash, and a golf outing. Details are available at mwfa.net. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In acquisition, expansion, and investment news, Brighton Best International is constructing a new 212,000 square foot office and warehouse in Strongsville, Ohio. The Worth Group has taken over Liqui-Moly Company in Germany. Essentra plc in the UK has acquired 100% of the share capital of Microplastics, the plastic fastener maker based in Flippin, Arkansas. TR Fastenings has recently invested in a new SLA 3D printer. Bolt & Nut Incorporated in Florida has been acquired by Threaded Fasteners Incorporated in Alabama. Hodel Natco Industries has acquired Davco Fastener Company, both based in Ohio. Stanley Black & Decker is planning an advanced manufacturing center of excellence in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. And Pivot Point Incorporated has expanded by purchasing and renovating a 15,000 square foot industrial building adjacent to its main production facility in Wisconsin, and by buying new production equipment and hiring more team members. In personnel news, Katie Fensel has joined Ernest Machine as Marketing Engagement Specialist. Grainger has appointed Mark Lohman as Chief Information Security Officer. Duncan McLean has been named Chief Executive Officer of McLean Fogg. Solon Manufacturing Company announced that current President J. Timothy Dunn has assumed the role of Chairman of the Board, and Diane Popovich has been named the new company President. And Sherrick Fastening Solutions has announced that Renee Bartel has been added to the Sherrick's Akron team as the new office administrator. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report newsletter, which is available in print, PDF, and flipbook editions by visiting FastenerTech.com. Finally, let's turn to the back page for a quick take on last year's job numbers. Now, it is obvious to me that the various numbers that most people monitor to gauge the pulse of the economy, things like the stock market indexes, economic growth rates, and employment numbers, are very complicated and do not move up or down due to isolated acts or to the daily pontifications of our fearless political leaders, but I am pleased to report what I consider to be a likable movement in the job numbers reported for 2017. The net change in USA manufacturing jobs last year was an increase of 196,000 new jobs versus a net loss of over 15,000 jobs in 2016. This occurred at the same time that federal government jobs in America dropped by 16,000 for the calendar year of 2017 after going up by 45,000 jobs in 2016. Also encouraging was 2017's 35% increase in construction job growth compared to the previous year. Call me an old-fashioned fan of limited government and free, fair, and competitive market economy, but I am always encouraged by tangible job growth in the private sector and real contraction in government jobs, which should lead to reduced government spending, the next logical step to prosperity in the USA, in my opinion. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
What happened at the recent YFP Leadership Conference? Bryan Wheeler and Mike Ricciardi stop by to tell us all about it. Stick around. It's Fully Threaded. When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting fastenal.com today.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fastener Training Minute. This is Carmen Vertullo coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and the Carver Fact Center, where we do fastening applications, consulting, and training here in San Diego. Today is the second part in what we loosely call a series, and the topic of our series is torque wrenches. Last time we talked about using extensions with torque wrenches. This time we're going to broaden it up a little bit, and we're going to discuss the two categories of torque wrenches. Now, I think there are two broad categories. There probably are somewhere between 6 and 20 different types of torque wrenches, depending on how you count them. But you need to know about the two broad categories of torque wrenches, especially if you're a supplier or involved with any kind of quality assurance when it comes to fasteners. When we return, I'll tell you what those two broad types are and why it's important that you know the difference.
Thanks, Carmen. This is Joe Morris with the Fastener Training Institute. Welcome to 2018. Happy New Year, everyone. We have a great year planned with new classes at the Fastener Training Institute. And based on inquiries I've already received, it appears that training in 2018 is going to be a top priority for many of you as well. To start the year off, we will be hosting our first Fastener Training Week in sunny Los Angeles, California on February 12th through the 16th. Our instructors are industry experts Carmen Vertullo, Lawrence Klaus, and Salim Brahimi, who will guide students through the week with everyday hands-on case studies and lots of real-life information. The course consists of 4 days of classroom instruction and 1 full day of plant tours. This is our most acclaimed program, which allows students to hold the esteemed title of Certified Fastener Specialist. There's still time to register. Please visit our website at fastenertraining.org. Moving to the end of February, on Tuesday the 27th, the Fastener Training Institute will present a brand new class, Non-Threaded Fasteners and Specialty Components, instructed by Carmen Vertullo. Push, pull, snap, press, pop, you name it. Non-threaded fasteners are the unsung heroes of fastener efficiency, and there's a lot more to know about them than you thought. Join us for this one-day hands-on training program and find out what you don't know about blind rivets, solid rivets, retaining rings, pins, bushings, and much more. And I would like to thank the Socket Source for sponsoring this class. The Socket Source manufactures domestic pins in Southern California. At a glance, our year is going to be exciting. FTI is traveling to Fastener Fair in April to present another new class, Fastening 101 and Understanding the Bolted Joint. We will also be taking yet one more new class, Advanced Fastener Technology, to the East Coast in June and again to Vegas in October. Lastly, our ever-popular monthly webinars will resume on the third Friday of every month. Now's the time to reach out to me if you'd like to participate as one of our sponsors. For more information about any of our classes and to see our 2018 calendar, please visit our website at fastenertraining.org. Now, back to Carmen.
Well, welcome back to the Fastener Training Minute. This is Carmen Vertullo, and today we are talking about torque wrenches and specifically two broad categories of torque wrenches, at least the ones that I use. Those two categories are known as indicating torque wrenches and control torque wrenches. The one you're probably most familiar with if you're in your garage playing with your car is the control torque wrench, commonly known as a clicker. This tool is designed to allow you to put a particular setting into the torque wrench and control the torque that you apply. It doesn't actually measure anything. There's no indicator on it other than that little micrometer on the handle that tells you what the perceived or expected torque should be that you apply. Now, there are other types of control torque wrenches where they have a single setting or a more or less permanent setting. We see these used in manufacturing and production, automotive, assembly operations all the time. The other broad category, my favorite, is called the indicating torque wrench. Now, the purpose of the indicating torque wrench is to tell you how much torque you applied. In other words, you're going to take this torque wrench, you're going to put it on a bolt. You have no control over it. You simply pull the handle and you look at the dial. There's a dial there. It's got a needle on it. that needle's going to move, it's going to sweep another needle along with it. That's called the memory needle. The memory needle stays put, and it tells you how much torque you actually applied. These types of torque wrenches are very important for quality assurance, doing a process called a torque audit, for example, which we'll discuss in another episode. Also for things like testing lock nuts and the installation effectiveness of nylon patch pellet type locking elements. Now, there's also a hybrid that comes between these two where we have a torque wrench that can actually indicate and control. These are very popular in large sizes in the structural bolt business, and they really don't control that well because you just kind of crank on them, and when you hear a beep or see a light go off, you let go. The human being has a lot to do with that control part of it. And nowadays we have electronic torque wrenches that do both jobs fairly well. But just be aware that when we're talking about torque wrenches, you need to know what the application is. Are you trying to control the torque that you're applying, or are you trying to measure the torque that you're applying? To measure the torque, we use an indicating torque wrench, and to control the torque that we're applying, we use a control torque wrench, such as a clicker. Well, those are the two broad categories of torque wrenches. Later on, we'll talk about some of the subcategories, and I hope you'll join us then. This has been Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute.
Hi, this is Bobby Wegner with Beacon Fasteners and Components. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
It's a new podcast season. Another year for the fastener industry to leap into the future, Bri. And based on that FDI report we just heard, the industry's pretty optimistic, at least for the 6-month outlook. What do you think?
Well, it's been pretty optimistic for the last 4 or 5 months, actually.
It has.
Well, it's done settled slightly into more realistic, that's all.
Yes. Well, realistic, I don't know, but we'll find out soon enough, I guess. But on this segment of the podcast, we're going to look deeply into the future by taking a small step backward, as we're so fond of doing, Bri. As 2017 wound down, the Young Fastener Professionals and the NFDA co-sponsored an event in Chicago. Actually, it happened in November. They called it the Leadership Academy, and it covered 2 days of various topics, and we got a couple of the guys from the YFP to join us to do a little bit of a brain dump on that. From ITW Shakeproof, Mike Ricciardi's here. Hey, Mike, you out there?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
So you're ready to educate all of us, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. This will be fun.
Well, that's asking a lot, but we'll try and make it that way. I don't know if you've ever heard the podcast, Mike.
Yeah, how good a teacher are you?
But also getting on this bandwagon from a little old company called Star Stainless, it's Bryan Wheeler. Hey, Bri, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
It's all right, matey.
So this event, the Leadership Academy, this was a brainstorm, I guess, of the YFP, and it sounds like it was fairly interesting because somehow whoever created this or whoever put it together invited Shelley Alcorn, a futurist and thought leader, as she's described, and she was facilitating some conversations that really had a lot to do with high tech, such as AI, additive manufacturing. I'm guessing that you talked a lot about autonomous vehicles and all that type of thing. And that really caught Bryan and I, so we wanted to speak with you a little bit about that. Mike, why don't we start off with you? First, please give our audience a little bit of a thumbnail about what you do over there at ITW Shakeproof, since we haven't talked to you before, and then give us your impressions about this event.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so ITW Shakeproof is a manufacturer, a fastener manufacturer, cold heading primarily out of Wisconsin and Illinois. We're across the board as far as automotive and industrial type vehicles for the most part. My side is on the sales side, so I'm really, again, I'm really looking forward to working with you guys on this one. But yeah, with the Leadership Academy, we really tried to focus extremely on technology. And as you spoke to, Shelley Alcorn really dug deep into AI and robotics and automation and the impact on our specific futures, especially in the fastener industry. So it was really, really cool. I liked it.
And you didn't terrify everyone and make them all run away screaming when you mentioned technology?
No, not exactly. We got a chance. I mean, it was great because it was a lot of younger people, and you really don't see that too often in this industry.
Yep.
Bryan Wheeler, you've been involved with the Young Fastener Professionals since its inception. I take it most of our listeners know what Star Stainless is all about, so I won't ask you to go back that far. But as far as this event and the YFP, I mean, what was the grand vision for it?
You know, when we sat down and took a look at this, the grand vision was really to gear a program for the current and future leaders of the industry. And rather than looking at the current practices that companies are using, really looking forward to what's to come in the future and how some of these new technologies mesh together and blend with our current operations and way of going to market. So, Shelley mentioned a lot of different things. I think some of the ones that were really most applicable to our industry were kind of some of the uses of IoT and AI from both a distribution and a manufacturing standpoint.
For our listeners, in case they haven't guessed, IoT is the Internet of Things.
Yeah, and AI for artificial intelligence. More on the viewpoint of processing data. Some of our companies and some of our analytics are already looking at these. So the way that we can process usage data to get better estimates for projections on total usages, and also identifying potential areas of improvement both in sales or operation.
So if you were to have this conversation like 10, 15 years ago, the new technology would have been these RFID chips, which are thinking they could put into like boxes of bolts or something like that. So is the IoT, is this the new evolution of what would have been these RFID chips?
I think looking at it, everyone's really familiar with VMI programs and how prevalent they've become in distribution, vendor-managed inventories, and now the Internet of Things, the placement of sensors, weight sensors inside bins where you can live monitor how many pieces are in the bin without physically sending a person to go and count them, allowing for a distributor to view their customer's inventory inside of their building and know when they need to go and replenish the bin stock and how much they need to bring to replenish it.
Okay, interesting take. Righto.
One of the big things that Shelley brought up too was by 2020, there's expected to be somewhere around 1 trillion sensors attached to the internet, and that's going to be huge. I mean, just from a preventative maintenance standpoint. On our vehicles, there's going to be so many different sensors that are going to be able to catch everything.
Yeah, as well as in your refrigerator and your washing machine.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And your light switches and the door locks.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see it now with Amazon with the smart buttons. You can have the button for all your different household goods, and when you're running low on the laundry detergent, you press the button, and Amazon will automatically send you the laundry detergent that you need. As ideas like this as far as sensors and responses that customers can do, I'm low on this particular item, and they can automatically go ahead and receive that. And even going one step further is to having an artificial intelligence or a program track that usage for you and order it for you before you even have to hit the button.
Right. Yeah, that's getting into the modern stuff. A lot.
Yeah, and even further than that, what's really cool is another thing by 2025, and this is just what I was reading, first city of 50,000 people will have 0 traffic lights because it just won't be necessary anymore.
Wait, hang on. Roll that back. Explain this a little bit. Are you saying that this is an autonomous vehicle setup?
Yeah. I mean, these types of things with these sensors involved, they'll be able to catch any specific maintenance issue, any car issue that we could potentially be running into. They'll be able to work on autonomous vehicles. And essentially, 50,000 people will be able to run smoothly with no traffic lights. I mean, to me, that's astounding.
The one that she brought up to me that I found very astounding was the Sophia, the first artificial intelligence robot that was declared citizenship by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and as it turns out, she has more rights, I guess, than a lot of organic female human beings in Saudi Arabia, which is really weird.
Yeah, there's a bit of, political work has to take place in some of these areas, even as getting rid of the traffic lights too.
I think I saw on the news today about the autonomous vehicle in Pittsburgh that got in a car accident earlier today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, we're going to hear that. I mean, the same as when we were finishing our show in Las Vegas, their first attempt at an autonomous bus, another car banged into it. But they had same problems with the first cars when they were trying to drive them too.
Right, we dealt with that a little bit in a previous episode. But, okay, so guys, it's obvious that you dealt with the seaboard of high-tech issues in this leadership conference. And I'm sure that it was more than just superficially talking about each one. I mean, we started off this conversation, I guess, with, Brian, you were mentioning the advent of the RFID chip, which is now, I guess, being somewhat supplanted with the IoT version. And that's going to be used in all kinds of supply situations. What specifically, or let's say it this way, where do you say, Bryan Wheeler, that the industry is currently, and what is the next step that this technology is going to enable?
I think right now the industry is really embracing kind of the idea of how to use the technology to help better projections and also their better operations. So projections using this predictive technology to deep dive into sales data, quoted data, to really develop customer trends. I think you see the development of CRM systems and how they're starting to change. CRM systems being the customer relationship management, and how now the prominence of voice over IP. So when somebody calls into your specific company, the computer then takes over and will pull their account up, show analytics as far as what they buy, how their purchasing compares this year to previous years, how their purchasing compares to other people within their typical markets. And really, I see in the future these being used to help identify opportunities for growth and really working towards enhancing the level of service and sales experience that suppliers can give to the customers, and that trickle-down effect all the way to the end user. I guess beyond that, at a distribution level and at a supply level, being able to have those better projections. So using the analytics to say, this is what the customer has used for the last 5 years in trend, and rather than waiting for the 6th year for them to come and quote the item, kind of already having the idea that I can bring it to the customer and say, these are the items that you typically purchase, and here's our pricing for the next year moving forward.
Right. Now, Mike Ricciardi, I'm going to throw the same question at you. And in light of what Bryan Wheeler just mentioned in terms of the grand vision for all this, which I have to say has been kind of the grand vision for quite some time, where do you think the industry is currently in utilizing this type of technology, and where do you think the next step is going to be based on what you guys discussed in this conference?
Yeah. So, what I say, what actually made a huge impact on me, and I've actually taken this pretty personally over the past couple of weeks since the show, was really deep diving into the marketing aspect. So yeah, in a lot of cases, the quality side, basically with a lot of domestic manufacturers, and I'm of course speaking to the manufacturing side because that's where I'm at. But from a manufacturing standpoint, quality levels at, let's say, overseas vendors are getting very, very, very good. And it's typically very, very tough to compete. So in this case, in like what I really learned was that marketing attention arbitrage. And basically what I mean by that is our abilities to really understand our customer at a much better level, at a much higher level than that of our overseas competitors. And that, I think, is going to be the competitive advantage moving forward. So first and foremost, future, we're talking 2018, 2019, 2020, we got to make sure that we understand ourselves, we empathize with our customers, and really get a true feeling for what our current customer base is going through. I mean, all of these are much easier now that we have the tools that Bryan talked to.
I want to go back to Bryan Wheeler, just a question here. In the, if you looked at some of the older systems, then if the idea you're talking about, the, say, weight measuring devices sitting in VMI systems, that seems a really slick idea, okay? But you could say that you've already got that. If you're the supplier, then your computer system has supplied those items to them anyway. I mean, shouldn't you know that already anyway? Why is this something different?
I think as far as a past supply versus something that's being managed at, say, a manufacturing facility where the projection of total units produced in a given time frame, there's definitely an average. But at times of maybe increased production where the usage could get skewed either up or down away from where its average is, being able to have that live inventory view is helpful. So that way, as the total number of units produced in a facility goes up, you know that you need to replenish their stock levels either more rapidly or not as rapid as in past time. So giving you that live feedback rather than just general average based on past usages.
Okay.
I think even for a company like ourselves where we have multiple locations, not every location uses the same amount of product month in and month out. The usage, varies. So being able to manage each individual location's inventory live allows us to open and close distribution channels for different items depending on where it needs to go and how often it's being used. So if my branch in Illinois, where I am, is using a product, more rapidly than we have in the past, we can draw inventory from another branch which isn't using it quite as often as it had in the past. That aspect of live data versus having to actually act upon needs. So just allowing the automation to pass that information without needing to have a physical person monitor it.
Okay. Given an ordinary distribution center then, say, nothing fancy, but like a lot of ordinary fastener companies have, how would you see devices that would be part of the Internet of Things being used in say, your ordinary warehouse system?
I believe you're already starting to see it. The idea of some of the vending machines, not just the vending machine as far as a carousel vending machine, but as far as the weight sensing vending machines that are being placed in some of the warehouses now by companies such as Fastenal or Brighton or Worth, where each individual item is weight sensitive, and as it gets removed, they have that live data, knowing that next time I send my employee out to that location to restock the machine, they know they know exactly what needs to get replaced, rather than just sending somebody out with a truck full of goods and having to see what was used. They know he needs this many of every single thing that was removed. And I think that live connection is already an Internet of Things application you're seeing in a standard end user from a standard distributor.
Okay.
And I would say that we've actually, nowadays in 2017, we've actually come to expect fast deliveries and just in time. I mean, think about the Amazon packaging, just that Amazon effect of 1 to 2 day delivery. If that doesn't happen, then we're mad. I mean, it's plain and simple. That's just the way that's the way that we're now programmed. When something like that comes out, we expect it.
Right. This is Amazon's way of upsetting the whole distribution system.
Correct. Right. They're good at it.
Right. Now, everyone expects you to be able to do that too.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've seen, when it comes down to it, orders where they come in, the expectation is, sometimes down to 2 weeks. When you got a manufacturing level that can take, 6, 8, 10 weeks, it gets very, very tough. So, more so than any time ever, the automation is absolutely key when it comes down to the actual processes. And, what was actually really cool when we actually started really deep diving into some of these, robotics, AI, we went into what if questions. And some of those what if questions during the Leadership Academy was, what if product development is changed? What if product development is obsoleted? What if quality is obsoleted? And these are all great questions to initiate, kind of makeshift our brains to think in a different way.
I think, Mike, it cracks me up when you say the customer expects 8 to 10 weeks on some of this stuff. We'll call customers, call the order in from the parking lot.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, I know. I get
it.
Right.
They call it in from the parking lot and walk in the door and can't figure out why it's not sitting on the shelf waiting for them.
Hey, you know why I'm not working for a distributor right there.
I think even the evolution of some of the smart warehouses, the automated picking, the conveyor systems, and how it moves and passes product to the appropriate locations. I think these are also examples of online sensors and automated processes that are really starting to become more prevalent within our industry. Smart, some of the smart trays on the carousel systems where when your order picker removes one bag, it automatically adjusts the inventory within the computer, knowing that bag, based on its weight, had a certain amount of pieces in it. And that allows for trigger points for the purchasing department to know it's time for them to replenish that stock based on whatever trigger point you develop for your reorders. And I think these are things that really you're already starting to see, and in the next 3 to 5 years will really become commonplace.
Let me ask you this. The promise of all this stuff is obviously huge and impacts as well. But did you discuss, or do you have any feelings on what would be the biggest obstacles to getting the smart warehouse implemented? I mean, why hasn't it happened already? What's preventing it?
I think monetary investment in the technology and where the ROI is on doing it. So how much it costs to put the technology into place, the initial investment, and how long will it take you to recoup that investment? And I think right now, especially coming as this technology became more, it was coming out of a recessionary period as it started to become more available. And I think still over the years, this standard user is apprehensive to invest millions of dollars into a program that doesn't directly output higher sales. So that analysis of, where is the return on my investment, and the investment being rather high. I think as it becomes more and more prevalent, the cost starts to come down, which makes it more available to more distributors and to just more companies in general.
Yeah, I'd say from our side too, it tends to be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because that seems to be the mantra, at least in the 3 to 4 years that I've been in this industry. But we have to change that. I think that's why things like this are so relevant. The Leadership Academy and talking about technologies. If it ain't broke, break it. You got to figure out ways to break it, because otherwise we're going to be stuck, and we're not going to be able to move forward with the times. And in today's day and age, somebody else is going to spend that money. Somebody else is going to spend that capital, and they're going to pass you.
Right, because it's the same theory of costing and return on investment that used to be around like 20 years ago when PCs cost a lot of money, and you'd go and say, so how many PCs have you got? Well, we're just waiting for them to come down in price. Of course, they've been coming down in price for the last 20 years, and they haven't stopped. So the people who actually invested, and then they had a distinct advantage over everyone else, and probably the same in this field here right now.
Yeah, well, again, here's a great opportunity to take a look at the Amazon effect. And in their case, they may have such a huge competitive advantage because of the technology that may be unstoppable. Let me ask you this, guys. So further to the leadership conference then, I mean, obviously we're not going to be able to get our arms around all of these technologies that you discussed because it's just a huge topic area. But were there takeaways for you in terms of practical things that young fastener professionals could be doing to be able to jump in to one or more of these areas to make you or your organizations better prepared to meet all this?
Yeah, I would say that one of the last question blocks that they went through was talking a little bit about our careers, how we can create a better opportunity for ourselves. And that's where we got a little bit into personal brand. You tend to hear that, and people tend to kind of shy away. Oh, personal brand, what do you mean? Social media? Like, I don't want to worry about that. That's not something for me. Well, more so than any time ever in today's day and age, that is an important factor. You know, when you talk about LinkedIn, when you talk about even when it comes down to Facebook and Instagram, I mean, these are all huge opportunities for us to create true opportunities for ourselves and our businesses. More so than ever too. I mean, I've found myself that B2B marketing, you know, business to business marketing has risen into places like Facebook. And these are all ways that we can create better communication for the masses. You know, the one-to-one phone call is definitely not dead. That is something that, you know, we will continue to do moving forward as a sales team, as engineering and everything. But on the other side, how do you scale? And that's what I believe I really took out of this.
Hear that, Bri? Social media. You got to start finding ways to create your own personal brand, Bri.
I mean, in a way, this is an ideal place for the young fastener professionals because you're in a position where you can actually lead the companies that you're in into the use of this technology, because there's probably a reluctance, even if it's not financial, because of the fear of technology at a certain level. And we haven't even mentioned really 3D printing yet.
No, and that has been on my mind because for a lot of reasons. But again, there are so many different ways that the conversation can go. It's a little bit daunting, I would say. We've already been at it for half an hour, and I feel like we've only scratched the surface, to tell you the honest truth. Let me ask you this, though, and I guess this kind of tells to my tendency to look at the dark side of all of this. Before we close it down, too, I want to talk about the Bill Joy article from like 10 years ago that we were discussing recently. But guys, at any point during this 2-day event, did Shelley point out the dark side of any of these technologies? I mean, you know, we hinted a little bit about Sophia, and IoT certainly has its scary impacts. But I mean, did you guys go there at all?
Yeah, actually a little bit. One of the things that she brought up was, again, going into artificial intelligence, how it's growing so much faster than people actually expected. Some of her PowerPoints were very visually stunning to us and super eye-opening, because she was talking about how artificial intelligence can have dreams now. I mean, these are things that, you know, we were seeing in movies 5 years ago, but it's actually truthful today. One of the stories that really resonated with me was there was a world famous chess player, and they were playing artificial intelligence for the first time. And traditionally what they do, you know, when they're playing robots, that robot will be programmed with every single move that's been documented forever in chess. And basically the world famous chess player will win most times. Because they have that ability to think for themselves. But with artificial intelligence, it completely changed the game. So they were able to create and manipulate moves that have never been documented before. And when that world famous chess player lost, he actually cried. And he was saying, I'm not crying because I lost. I'm crying because I'm scared for humanity. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, some of the comments are from the development of, I guess, the humanoid robots, which is sort of also going on and attempting to develop human-like habits or traits for these things. And it's very interesting, some of the results of this. And, you know, I mean, these things are thinking in a way they've been programmed, but they also have the ability to apply new rules to this, and that gets sort of interesting. I mean, it goes straight into this area that Eric has alluded to, this guy, Bill Joy from Sun Microsystems, who was a very, very, very smart man and thought deeply, 20 years ago. Where is this stuff going to go?
Well, yeah, so you just segued kind of back into that, so I might as well just mention it right now. Bill Joy wrote an opinion piece in Wired magazine. We've talked about this previously on the podcast, I know, Bri. But this Bill Joy article or op-ed was called Why the Future Doesn't Need Us. And it was actually in the April 2000 edition of that magazine, which used to be a really big deal, guys. I think it's a little bit before your time. It's still out there, but it's a shadow of its former self.
Yeah.
And this article has become the manifesto, really, of the school of thought that is warning against the development of technology, but also preventing the conundrum that we're never going to stop it. And I would highly recommend that anybody who's interested in this whole subject get out there and just Google, here I am, Ray Kurzweil would be proud, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us by Bill Joy, and really get an idea about where we're at. And it hasn't stopped yet. Let me ask you this, gentlemen. Maybe, Brian, you haven't piped in on this one yet. Did the idea of the singularity come up at all during the conference?
Speaking to your Wired magazine thing, that was one thing we kind of we were talking about all the sensors, and we were talking about all the software, and at one point we had brought up that you're going to have the sensors and the manufacturing side that can trigger the machines to do producing. You'll have the sensors on the distribution side saying when they're low on stock. You'll have the AI that's developing the purchase orders. Before you know it, we'll be sitting behind the desk, and the computer will be running the business, and we'll all be sitting here asking if it can give us a raise, if we get paid this week, or what's going on. Because before you know it, everything will be so automated that we'll start to lose control over the humanity side of who's making the decision, because we used to decide how much we bought and from what factory we bought it from and who we sold it to. And before you know it, it starts to take all those decisions away as we start to automate more and more. We were talking about the AIs and how, I forget which company it was, but they had the two artificial intelligences that started speaking to each other and eventually developed their own language and were able to communicate beyond what we could understand.
Right, so it sounds like you guys had your own Why the Future Doesn't Need Us moment during this event, which you reached the same point, didn't you?
Yeah.
That discussion got a little ridiculous. As you can imagine, it was about 30 minutes where we were just going on and on about why are we even here?
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
It's an existential question, that's for sure. Now, let me ask you this, gentlemen. Had either of you really considered this idea deeply before you went to this conference? Or did it kind of open your eyes?
I'd say for me, it was definitely eye-opening. I mean, some of the things that she brought up, I could tell that she had a keen eye on technology. She knew what was going on here and now. And that was, it was so cool. Discussing blockchain. I mean, these are all things, even in November, it was kind of like, oh, what is that? What is this whole Bitcoin thing? All this stuff. And she was bringing that kind of stuff up. So it was really cool overall. Just that first segment. I mean, just listening to her was cool.
How about you, Bryan Wheeler?
Yeah, I had thought about it a little bit in the past. Maybe even more just as simple as applying the idea of the hotel minibar. If you take this away, the sensor automatically charges your room, and how something like that could be applied within the industry. But not quite as deeply as Shelley had really kind of opened my mind to really how many different areas this can be applied into, and how, when you get them all to work together, it can really create systematic changes within the entire industry.
Yep. No, you're right. You're right.
Well, once again, this is such a huge subject area that we could only scratch the surface during this conversation, but I'd like to thank you gentlemen for presenting a little bit of it here on the podcast and giving people an idea about what went on. I'd like to congratulate the young fastener professionals, I guess, for succeeding in your main mission, which was to open some eyes and perhaps build some momentum for future events like this. Also the NFDA for jumping in, sponsoring it, facilitating it, and so forth. And I'll also say this, it may be a little esoteric sounding for some of our listeners out there who are distributors who are, let's face it, they're just trying to sell a few screws, right? But sounds like we're all going to have to confront these realities in the not-too-distant future.
I do know, in speaking between YFP and NFDA, this is a program that we do have hopes to continue, not just in the Midwest, but moving it around to various regions to give other individuals, both manufacturing distributors alike, an opportunity to attend closer to their homes.
Sounds a great idea. Okay.
Yes, and it's definitely not just for the young, too. That doesn't mean that, you have to be young to be a part of this group.
No, this is really targeted current and future leaders.
Absolutely.
Well, what do people do if they want to stay abreast of future opportunities, even though the future doesn't need us?
I would say keeping an eye on both the YFP and the NFDA website. As we have more details figured out as far as future programs, we'll make that available via both the social media outlets and the web-based outlets as well. So just kind of keeping your eyes peeled for those announcements, be it on the Twitters or directly on the website.
Got it. Well, most fully threaded radio listeners are the types of fastener people who are abreast of the usual characters when it comes to fastener media, so I think they'll probably get wind of it. Stay tuned to Fully Threaded Radio, and we'll point you in the right direction. Hey guys, you mentioned personal brands earlier in the conversation, and I don't think you hurt yourselves by joining in on this conversation today. I hope you did a little bit of brand building by participating. So thanks once again to Bryan Wheeler of Star Stainless and Mike Ricciardi with ITW Shakeproof. It was great to have you guys on the podcast.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I mean, this has been a lot of fun.
And worry.
Oh, agreed. Couldn't agree more.
Hey everyone, it's Fully Threaded Radio. We'll be right back.
Once you're in this industry, you're not getting out. Good thing there's Fully Threaded Radio. Talk radio for the fastener industry.
What's the real value of Lindstrom? You probably know us as a leading specialty fastener master distributor. But what really sets us apart is a commitment to providing added value for the distributors we serve. Over the years, we've developed a solid foundation of value-added specialties, including hard-to-find products, expertise in secondary processes, in-house manufacturing, technical services, and unique inventory management programs. As we continue to expand, Lindstrom is focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice, to be the source for everything distributors need. When you need something special, turn to Lindstrom. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
First, there was fire, and man said, "Fire, good." Then there was the wheel, and man said, "Wheel, good." With the invention of the wheel came the need for fasteners, and man loudly exclaimed, "Buckeye, good." Buckeye Fasteners, providing quality products since the dawn of man. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud fastener show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt Beer, official beer of the Traveling Salesman.
Tell them Grog sent you. Ugh.
ND Industries has been solving customers' toughest problems through innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service since 1955. A family-owned business, ND Industries manufactures and applies fastener locking, bonding, sealing, masking, and assembling products. Their pre-application process makes fasteners ready to use at the point of assembly, resulting in reduced labor costs, time savings, and superior quality assurance. As a fully integrated company, ND handles all aspects of operations from formulating custom chemical compounds and coating fasteners to providing inline inspection, packaging, and delivery services. ND Industries serves the global market with 13 divisions in the continental U.S. and also facilities in Taiwan, China, and Turkey. Learn more about ND Industries at our website at www.ndindustries.com. ND Industries, innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service. Contact ND today.
In this economy, I need to cut cost and freight, or I'll lose my customer.
Solution Man, Ken. The more you order, the more you'll save. With free freight on orders over $1,000. See the Solution Industries website for details at solutionIND.com.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
Hi, Bob O'Brien of Certified Products in Chicago. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio, the largest proponent of free beer in the fastener industry.
Bryan and Eric, back with you, fighting for truth, justice, and the fastener way of life.
And artificial intelligence in the fastener industry. Sorry.
I don't know if I'm fighting for that or fighting against it, to tell you the truth. I haven't decided yet.
I love my Alexa, okay? Some stage there's going to be like an industrial business version of that that allows you to talk into it and do things instead of having to talk into your phone. I think these Google and Amazon have proved that they can make this technology work as opposed to the dreadful things we've had with Siri and whatever is the Samsung equivalent.
Well, those have been baby steps, and I have no doubt that you are correct. These things are progressing, and they're progressing at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
I think that Mike and Bryan had their eyes open during this session. I think it was a really worthwhile session. And, we've been hammering on some of these issues for years. Remember back a couple of years when we put on that breakout session at the Fastener Tech?
Yeah.
We had like 200 people or so. I mean, it was pretty well attended, but this is more of the same, and I think that more of the same are going to continue to come, and they're needed.
Right. Well, this is sort of, a lot of our stuff was sort of dream stuff. I think it was it was sort of dream stuff, but what, Bryan particularly was talking about is some of the stuff that actually is working now. I mean, this is not dream stuff. This is real life stuff, and it's come to fruition sort of quickly. Yeah, this is way past all the demos on TV where your fridge tells you need to buy, 3 more eggs or something like that.
Or Vegemite.
Yes. That's going to be a while, okay?
No, I get your point. Once again, because it's so important, I think, folks, I'm going to suggest that you take a look at the Wired magazine article back from 2000. The author of the story was Bill Joy, and the title was Why the Future Doesn't Need Us. Do a search on that story and read it and see how far we've come in the last 18 years and ask yourself, do you think we're progressing? And if we are progressing, where are we going? I think those are definitely questions that the young fastener professionals who attended the leadership conference will be asking themselves.
Right, and they're much deeper questions than they seem just on a casual, asking. It's really what part of the future are we going to be? Does the future particularly need us? And, much, much, much smarter people than you or I have struggled with this question.
That's right. And for those of you fastener truth seekers out there who are really looking to connect some dots, I have one other suggestion for you. Usually we hold this off till the end of the podcast, Bri, but I'll throw it out there now simply because we're on the subject. If you're really looking to connect the dots on where technology could be leading the world and how it's ramping up exponentially, maybe why is it moving in the direction that it's moving, check out a book called Technocracy Rising. It answers a lot of those questions. It's by an author of the name of Patrick Wood. This book was published in 2015. It was revised in 2016. Again, it's Technocracy Rising. It touches on lots of the IoT, self-driving car, a lot of these technologies, and kind of ties up a lot of, gives you quite a bit of the history of it, but also gives you a lot of potential direction for it. Quite a bit that I think young fastener professionals and fully threaded listeners would find interesting if you're really scratching your head wondering what the hell's going on. Well, with that, why don't we thank our guests on the podcast today? They were from ITW Shakeproof and the Young Fastener Professionals, Mike Ricciardi, also with the YFP from Star Stainless, Bryan Wheeler. Robbie Gilchrist kicked off the podcast with us, and Jessica Boweak of Mack Brooks sat in to tell us all about the upcoming Fastener Fair USA. Yet another trip for you, Bri.
Right, in Cleveland with the opening night at the Hall of Fame.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You are correct, sir. Quinn Fredrickson from Baird joined Mike McNulty. Thanks, guys. Great job. And, of course, Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute. We'll see you out there in Cleveland also, Carm.
We will.
So thanks to all of our guests, and we'll also take this opportunity to thank the sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio. The title sponsors are Stelfast, for service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. And Lindstrom, by any measure. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Mack Brooks Fastener Fair USA, ND Industries, The Worth Group, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. Please let us know what you think of the podcast, folks, or if you have suggestions or questions. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com, or on Twitter, where the handle is fullythreaded. If you have Vegemite questions, you could send those directly to Bryan, though. Don't send those to the show email address.
Right. So they will get to me, okay.
Well, Bri, we covered a lot of ground on the podcast today. I mean, 2018 is looking like a pretty exciting year all the way across the board, I think, no matter how you slice it. We've got technology. We've got a lot of distributors who are looking forward to some strong business. We have these tax breaks, which are going to be kicking in. We'll have to see how they impact the business climate.
Right.
Plus, we have the upcoming show in Cleveland, and you're going to Costa Rica. You have to be real excited about that.
I am. Yes, that's true.
So I figured we'd close out the podcast with a little potentially disturbing news.
Oh, sure. Okay.
We like to do that from time to time. It's not that disturbing. Actually, I saw a headline, and I reached out to our friend from the Reshore Now group, Harry Mosier, who I'm trying to line up for an upcoming episode. But I saw a headline on a recent Wall Street Journal article that caught my eye. This was from January 12th, and the headline was, China reports biggest ever annual trade surplus with the U.S.
Right. Consumption in the U.S. has to lead to that, I guess, unfortunately. So what's Harry's view on this?
Yes, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Let me just give you the opening sentence of this thing. It says, China reported its largest ever annual trade surplus with the U.S. last year, while its overall imbalance with the world shrank, potentially strengthening the Trump administration's case for tougher penalties and other trade actions against Beijing. So the story basically goes on to explain the extent to which the imbalance is, how it's grown, gives a little history on that, but you get the main takeaway.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was mainly curious about this because you hear all of this economic news and you really kind of lose sight of exactly where we are. So, not knowing much at all about the issue, I reached out to Harry. Here was what he said. Thanks for asking. Some of the trade balance is due to companies importing ahead of likely tariff increases. Some is due to a strong U.S. economy and to higher but still not high enough Chinese prices. Some could even be due to companies caught underestimating import valuations. So there's obviously a lot of causes for this imbalance, Bry.
One of those is sort of interesting. I guess his take that maybe people are importing more in advance so they can avoid having to pay higher prices sort of makes sense.
The anticipation effect. Now, here's something that speaks to a comment you made while we were talking with Robbie Gilchrist at the top of the show regarding taxes. He says, and this is Harry Mosier again, the rest of the world is concerned that there will be a great sucking sound of jobs flowing into the U.S. due to the lower tax rate and capital investment write-offs. And of course, Harry's talking there about the recently passed tax bills, which there's quite a bit of corporate tax reform built into those. And as you have heard, international business people are really taking notice of this.
And there's a lot of disinformation coming out of places, specifically Europe, on the basis this is terribly unfair that the US would even think of bringing its tax rates down to the same as Europe's had for the last 25 years. They don't do well on an equal playing field.
I think one of the other great sucking sounds that's going to happen too, it's probably already started, is some of the reshoring of the dollars that had been stored around the world instead of being stored right here in the U.S. I mean, that's the headline that we've been reading over and over and over. We'll have to see if that indeed happens. And, of course, what will the impact be for the fastener industry here in the U.S.?
Right. Well, the impact, even if it's not in the fastener industry, will be in the United States as a whole. Because if, U.S. companies have got $2 trillion sitting in banks in Europe funding all the development in Europe, it would only be smart to bring some of that back here to fund development in America instead. Another reason the Europeans are not that comfortable,
Well, as I mentioned, I'm trying to get Harry to get on the podcast with us, maybe for the February episode. Not sure yet. I'll try and lock that in. He's a really knowledgeable guy, and he's on top of all this.
Yeah, he is.
But I know we're all hoping that the net effect of these moves, despite the growing trade imbalance, is that screws are going to be flying off the shelves. And we hope that's what happens for you, everybody, in 2018.
Right.
That's going to put this episode of Fully Threaded Radio in the can. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Or in the tube if you're talking about Vegemite.
This one has been squeezed and there's no going back in the tube.
Okay, right.
You'll have to wait for the next one, and we hope you'll all tune in for that. Until then, for Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.